Why is everyone so negative about the UFL? Now, of course, normally I don't talk about the UFL after games. Last year I did some post-game recaps. I decided this year to kind of just steer away from it and pretty much at this point record news, record anything that comes out, TV ratings, attendance, things like that, as we've seen over the past 10 days. But I couldn't be quiet after tonight's game. And mainly because of the fact that we continue to see such a negative notion towards the UFL and just towards spring football that I swear your common fan of the UFL wants the league to go bankrupt, wants the league to go out of business, and just overall, like, even people within the media realm of things are very on a negative track with the league. And there is some stuff that I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the league's the best thing ever, because there is a lot of stuff that has happened over the past 3 weeks. I mean, we still have 3 more games to go in week 3, but the level of play and type of things like that have been really down. We've had a couple blowout games. In particular, St. Louis Battlehawk games we've seen have been quite a blowout, especially just how bad the Houston Roughnecks are. They almost came back. Technically speaking, the Roughnecks almost came back last week and tied the game to go to overtime against Arlington. Tonight, we saw the Birmingham Stallions and Arlington Renegades, and the offense was nowhere to be found on either side of the ball. The only red zone touchdown / almost play they had in the entire game came at the very end with the Birmingham Stallions scoring a touchdown to win the game. Or to go ahead and then scored a 1-point conversion to go ahead 10-9, and that was pretty much it. I don't know what's going on with the offense of the Renegades. They looked good in week 1. Week 2, they were a little bit here and there. They've had a lot of penalties against them overall that have cost the Renegades so much. This game, they were a little more balanced when it came to penalties. The penalties were really on the Birmingham Stallions side. They almost shot themselves in the foot with penalty after penalty after penalty that, quite frankly, the Renegades just could not capitalize on. And we kind of got to give the due and the flowers to both defenses in this game, the Stallions and the Renegades. But what is basically drawing so much attention when it comes to the UFL tonight is what is a lot of people are calling a controversial call and situation that happened late in the game, involving the replay assistant or the booth, aka Mike Pereira, in the UFL referee command center, whatever you want to call it, that most all football fans have been yelling, screaming, whatever the case may be, with the NFL of how bad officiating is. They want more transparency. They want it actually to be called fair. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened in the Arlington Renegades and Birmingham Stallions game. I am a diehard Renegades fan from day one, going back to 2019 when they announced the Arlington or Dallas Renegades at that point. I watched the game. I saw this exact play in live, and quite frankly, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that interception didn't count. It was a false start that somehow didn't get called. I think that's the real take here, is that the officials on the ground did not call the false start on the Birmingham Stallions, which no matter what, no matter how you take these plays or this play, the call was a false start. It would back them up 5 yards. It was going to be 4th and 11 no matter what, because it was already 4th and 6. And I'll pull it up here on the screen. Now, I'm not going to have any audio to it or anything like that, but it'll be running in this screen right over here. So sorry, my camera's reversed. It'll be right over here. Now, of course, the other big thing is here on the screen is a lot of tweets and a lot of things on Reddit that are going out. And quite frankly, you can see right off the bat just the amount of hate that is going around. And basically, again, so what happened here, as you can see, I'm going to look to my other monitor here, is false start right there. You can see the false start, but they never called it. There was no call on the field, and what ended up happening was Matt Corral threw a ball just out of the blue to get it off because they thought it was false start, but the clock never, the whistle never blew. So at that point, he just threw it away. It ended up getting intercepted. That would have been the game. But at that point, so there's two options that could have happened. We learned during commentary. First was the fact that Birmingham had the right to technically super challenge this, which sounds weird, but they could have super challenged it and got the false start call on themselves to essentially just be moved back 5 yards and the interception wouldn't have counted anyways. But what happened was Mike Pereira got involved, and which is exactly the UFL rules, and they have been. Nothing is new here. We want transparency with the referees and everything like that, and that's exactly what we got with Mike Pereira making the right call, doing the right thing, and that essentially, in my opinion, did not happen here. So I'll take it off the screen and we'll go back to the tweets here and read them and everything. So again, the United Football League ended up posting about this, that after the review, the interception does not stand after a false start is confirmed by the officials. What ended up happening at that point, it was 9-3. Arlington was winning. Arlington's defense just did not do anything after this to stop the Stallions from going down the field and getting into the red zone and scoring a touchdown and then scoring an extra point to go ahead and win the game. Plus, let's not talk about the fact that the Arlington Renegades didn't do anything with that last minute so they had left on the clock to try to get into field goal range and kick a field goal to win the game. None of that happened. This was atrocious offensive football by both teams. Matt Corral and the Birmingham Stallions had multiple turnovers that the Arlington Renegades mainly, in most cases, only got a field goal off of. They didn't get a touchdown at all during this game. But going back to this play, because this is where the controversy essentially is happening with everybody on the internet. And I know it's the internet, whatever, but I have seen more and more as time goes on, this negative approach from people that are fans of the league and have been fans of the league. I've seen these same people posting throughout the years, whether it's the USFL, the XFL, or now the UFL. These are people I've seen all the time commenting on James Larson's stuff or others. So we'll go to his. And James Larson says, I'd love to see what Bob Stoops has to say to Mike Pereira the next time they see each other. Arlington absolutely robbed tonight. I'll be honest, I disagree that they were robbed tonight. I think they robbed themselves out of a game that could have been a blowout. I mean, this game could have ended up being another Friday night game like St. Louis Battlehawks and the Houston Roughnecks had 2 weeks ago on Fox. The Arlington Renegades had that opportunity to do the exact same thing because, quite frankly, Birmingham's offense and the turnovers and everything like that, this game easily could have been 28-3, or depending on how many times they went for a 2-point conversion or one. But the advantage could have been in Arlington's favor throughout this entire game. That just did not happen. And with this call that was reversed or basically made, that's what this league is about. We know this as fans. We know this in the media. We know all this stuff. They were not robbed tonight. Yes, there was some other calls throughout this game that was not great officiating. But guess what? In the end, it still wasn't like Arlington's fault, or it wasn't the ref's fault. Arlington lost. That's the key point here. Quite frankly, again, neither team did very well, but we'll talk about the level of play and everything like that here in a second. But let's go back to this. So other people, Andrew says, I'm sorry, I'm a fan of the league, but how do you not allow them to decline the penalty? Well, there was no way they could decline the penalty. A false start on a play, you can't decline it. It's just a 5-yard penalty. It sets the offense back 5 yards, and that's exactly what happened. You can't decline that and the ball get overturned or turned over on downs in that situation. It is a pre-snap foul, so the play never happened, and that's exactly what should have happened. The ref on the field should have blew the whistle at that point, and that was it. But in this case, they didn't. The ball was intercepted because Matt Corral just threw the ball up. Renegades got it, and they thought they won the game. Or at least had the ball on offense and tried to run the clock down or whatnot, and that's not what happened. So I disagree with James that they got robbed. I, as a Renegades fan, don't even believe that. But then you have Brock Bowen, fire Mike Pereira now. He missed the out of bounds on the turnover and changed the result of the game by throwing a flag from the booth. Unacceptable nonsense. So what the booth can throw? So what the booth can throw a flag every play under 5 minutes? Then no flag thrown on the field. So okay, going back to the fumble out of bounds that happened earlier. I don't have footage of that one, but I watched that in Lifetime, and quite frankly, I agree as well that it looked in certain frames that the Birmingham Stallions player was out of bounds when he touched the ball, but the ball ended up rolling back and someone else touched it. In live time, and if you're watching in live time like Mike Pereira was doing, you couldn't see that. And that's exactly what he said. There is not enough vision to see that he was actually out of bounds at that point. Even when they were running it through live and slowing it down, you could barely see it. It was so close. And quite frankly, with these replays and everything in the booths, even in the NFL, if the call on the field is what it is, and the booth can't determine if it's a definite change and there's not enough evidence to overturn the call, guess what? The play on the field stands. That's exactly what happened here. So no, Mike Pereira does not need fired. I truly believe that even if Dean Blandino was in the booth tonight and was calling this, it would have ended up being the exact same calls. I would assume that at least on the call of the false start, regardless, Birmingham had a super challenge left. They could have easily challenged it and said they had a penalty on themselves. That's the rule. You can challenge any call on the field, and they were still in that time period that they could do that. So then you have Noah. I'm done watching this league. Laughed my ass off. That just costed Arlington the game with a Bush League type rule. No, it didn't cost them the game. They cost themselves the game. Keep in mind, after the fact of that play happening, Birmingham was at a 4th and 11 on it. We have no idea what would have happened if there was no false start, or even Arlington reacted false start, first false start. It didn't happen. So even if that play would have been good, Birmingham still could have got that first down and drove and got the touchdown, got the 1-point conversion, and did the exact same thing. So no, Arlington was not. They didn't get the game cost. It wasn't the last second of the game and, oh, sorry, the game's over, blah, blah, blah. That did not happen. And second off, this isn't Bush League rules. This literally is what every fan in professional football has been asking for, especially in the NFL. Go back to the Kansas City and Buffalo Bill playoff game just a couple months ago when Josh Allen supposedly, I think, reached over, got the first down, and they said he didn't, and that ended up being the game, essentially. That's not what happened here. And then you have Go Beavs, can't take you seriously as a league with crap like that. And they are commenting on the UFL's video here or whatnot. Then you have someone on Reddit, or maybe this is still on X, that was like, this is bullshit and unwatchable after this. You do realize that people bet actual real money on this. This league is cooked. Go ahead and fold it up. F y'all bums. Go bankrupt already. See, this is the kind of negative perspective that I'm talking about, that people are just spewing hate for something that literally everybody has been asking for. Transparency and like, oh, people actually bet money on this. Guess what? That's what's been happening in the NFL for years and years and years, that people keep saying the game is rigged, or to an extent rigged. Yes, money is being bet on the UFL. That is correct. Now, I, quite frankly, unlike ESPN, Fox really doesn't talk much about the betting odds of the UFL, so I'm not in the betting. I don't really know much about it, but this happens in all sports. But to say, oh, this is unwatchable, like people are betting on this, the league is cooked. Every league in professional sports has bad calls in it. I'm not saying that in particular this was a bad call. It was the right call. It was the right decision. But hey, let's continue just trashing the UFL. Then you have someone else, a defining moment for the league and every flaw the league offers. What flaw and what defining moment did this make where, oh, I'm not watching the league anymore, or this is going to turn the league off to people? You know what turns off the league to people too? Like, funny enough, last year in Arlington, went to the game, ended up going to a bar afterwards to get food or whatnot, and this older lady that was there, it was during one of the Arlington Renegades games where whoever the DC Defenders were playing, that they got the 4th and 12 and they got the ball back and ended up winning the game because of the non-onside rule, and that they get the 4th and 12. And this lady was like, oh, what kind of football league allows teams to just get the ball back? You just get the ball back? And she was going off and saying, oh, this league's a piece of trash. I'm never watching this crap again. But people go into this not understanding anything about the game and what the UFL is trying to accomplish to help change rules in the NFL to make it more transparent. Now, do I think the NFL will ever get this transparent as the league is currently? Absolutely not. I think we'll get close to it, but there's no way. There's no way I think they'll get this close. But then you have this. These two were from Reddit. The last one says, it may have been the right call, but it felt very dirty and wrong. If the officials don't call it and stop play, they need to give the coach a chance to decline this kind of after the fact command center correction penalty. You can't decline a pre-snap foul because the play never happened. Like, I don't understand what fans are not getting about this. This is 101 football. This is rules of any football, at least American. I'm assuming the CFL has even similar rules as well with false starts or pre-snap fouls, that it all relates in the same exact way. The problem here is the refs on the field did not blow a whistle. Why would Arlington or Bob Stoops get to decline the penalty? And what's funny here is the fact that during the game, when it was explained to Bob Stoops what happened, and I know James said, I'd love to see what Bob Stoops has to say to Mike Pereira. Bob Stoops sounded like he understood the call and just went on. He was not screaming and yelling and going crazy over the fact that it was a bad call. That at least from what I saw, when they kept showing him after the refs talked to him and what happened, he was not screaming at the refs. He was not going off. Now, of course, the player, and I can't remember who caught the interception or got the interception, he was pretty pissed on the sidelines after he realized that the interception didn't count, and he had the interception cowboy hat on, and he threw it to the ground, and he was mad. I get that. In live time, you're a player. You're thinking you just like won the game and it was overturned. But Bob Stoops was told exactly what happened and moved on, and it didn't even matter. So that's essentially like that's the big part of that. And we'll go back to full screen here so I can talk. The other thing I wanted to talk about now, of course, I normally do not talk about ratings or attendance or anything like that until we get there, and I'm going to pull it up on my other screen here from Mike Mitchell when he announced right after halftime what the attendance was for this game. So we'll give you a little preview of that if you haven't read it already. But Mike Mitchell reporting the official attendance figure for Week 3, and this kind of goes into my other topic here about the negative talk about the league and all that kind of stuff. So here's what it is. So the official attendance figure for Week 3's UFL game between the Arlington Renegades and Birmingham Stallions at Protective Stadium is 10,126. Birmingham's average attendance number during the regular season last year was 10,255. So this is below that average, essentially, of what they had last year. But keep in mind, too, as Fox reported, there was a storm that rolled in prior to it, that it was raining. It looked like a lot of people arrived to the game later. I truly don't know if there was 10,126 people there. I don't think there was, because the point that Mike Mitchell has made week in and week out, going back to the XFL in 2020, is that the attendance for each game is not how many people are in the stadium. It is not how many people go through the gates and have their tickets scanned or go through the turndial, whatever the case may be here. That's not attendance. Attendance is tickets distributed and sold. So distributed could mean they gave away tickets to a corporate sponsor. Let's say, for instance, New Era had... this is just an example. It's not any case. Let's say New Era had a office in Birmingham. So because they are a sponsor or whatever the case may be, they gave 100 tickets to New Era. Here's 100 tickets. That's distributed. Then you have, maybe they gave a local school, high school team 100 tickets, whatever the case may be. Those are distributed tickets, essentially, that they're giving out, whether they're free, whether they're paid through sponsorship prices, all those type of things are distributed tickets. That does not mean those people show up. And I can give you same goes with season tickets. Season ticket holders may have bought season tickets, or corporations bought season tickets to give to their employees or to, like, people that normally show up to games couldn't go this week. And I'll use a few examples here. So first and foremost, I have been a season ticket holder for a local minor league baseball team here in Colorado Springs since 2019. And during that time, they announce their attendance every game. It's part of the Pioneer League, baseball league or whatnot. And I have gone to a game, literally have gone to a game on a weekday when they had a Wednesday day game, and it was whatever the case may be. It was scheduled that way. It was 105 degrees out, and there was 9 people at this game. 9 people. There was more concession people, there was more staff than there were fans in the baseball stadium. 9 people for a stadium that normally, on a busy night, normally can get up to 3,000 to 5,000 people in it at a time, right? And so 3 people showed up, or 9 people showed up to this game, and they announced that the attendance was like 3,210. Well, obviously there wasn't 3,210 people there. What they did consider was the fact that they had over, I think at that point, like over 1,000 season ticket holders. They also gave out tickets to local schools for like a math event that they were having at the baseball game that day. They didn't have people from school show up because of the heat. It was super dangerous for kids to be sitting in 100-degree heat for God knows how long. Then they had actual ticket sales as well. They had tickets distributed to marketing. And I know a lot of people in that realm in minor league baseball that works with tickets, that works with how all that's ran, similar to how a league like the UFL would. And Major League Baseball, all these other leagues do the same exact thing, is they distribute tickets throughout the community, whatever the case may be. Those are all considered tickets that are in that total. So 10,126 for tonight's game, just because maybe there was, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7,000. I really don't know. I'm not going to assume or count or anything like that. It doesn't really even matter at this point. That's the whole point of this. The attendance level they're counting is tickets sold and tickets distribution through all these other things. And it was very similar in the XFL in 2023 when I had conversations with numerous people in Las Vegas for the Vegas Vipers and their ticket people in Vegas and everything like that I've talked to, mindlessly dumbing it down to how this all works. Is the Vegas Vipers had the most consistent amount of people at every game. They had 5 games total. They had the most consistent number. It was always right over 6,000. And not always was there 6,000 people in that stadium whatsoever at Cashman Field. We know this for a fact. But thing is, they had sponsorships with local casinos. I think Westgate Travel Association, that the Westgate Hotel that's there, they had one in Orlando where the Guardians played. And essentially, they allotted a bunch of tickets for casino workers and things like that to distribute. Those people never showed up to games, but guess what? Those tickets were still accounted for. That is part of their financing, their budgeting and things like that of how they do that. So Westgate may be like, hey, we're going to be a sponsor. We're paying into this sponsorship or whatever the case may be. They give the league money. The league then provides them 500 tickets, whatever the case may be, that they can distribute. It's that same concept over and over and over again. And people don't understand that. They're like, oh, the league is lying about their attendance. They are fudging numbers. They're lying. This is BS. And it's like, that's not how that works. Why would the league, the UFL in particular, why would they fudge numbers that are not like the greatest numbers ever? Don't you think they'd be like, hey, we distributed 20,000 tickets, but they can't do that because there has to be a budget somewhere. You have to have a budget. You have to have finance. There's a lot of things that go into play for taxes and things like that they have to have these numbers for accounting, for those type of things. And people don't realize that. They don't understand that. And they're so caught up on these numbers. They're caught up on the fact there's no one in the stands, blah, 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 blah. They're concerned that the TV ratings aren't as big as last year, which we talked about. But in the real world of this league, we do not. And nobody, unless you work directly for Daryl Johnston, Dwayne Johnson, Danny Garcia, Russ Brandon, Fox Sports, Redbird Capital, these owners or co-owners of the league, and you're in their finance meetings and you know for a fact that the league is doing bad and they're failing, you have no earthly idea what you're talking about. I don't know how many times I have seen people here on YouTube, I've seen people on X, I've seen people on Reddit say, oh, the league's failing, they are going bankrupt, they can't make money, this ticket sales or these numbers are so low. You have no idea what their quota is or their goal is. Now, I'm not saying that everything is great, because I think there's a lot to raise some questions as to what's happening, but we also know that Friday Night Football, a lot of people are saying, hey, the attendance could be lower because you're trying to compete with people that are getting off work. They've worked all day. Maybe their friends don't want to go out to a game right away. The games start, depending on where they're at, most of the games either start at 7 p.m. Central Time or 8 p.m. Eastern Time based on where the league is. Those are the time zones they're currently in. So you're asking people to leave work at 5, 6 o'clock and get to a game, or take friends, family, whatever the case may be, when kids have been in school all day. You never know what potentially some schools have. Like my kids are in band, so they may have a band performance or anything in that realm that could allot people not showing up to these games. So is Friday night not a good idea for the UFL? Well, no. Of course it's a good idea, because Fox is making a lot of money off viewership. Obviously, we've seen it's definitely lower than college basketball, and it's lower than some of the NASCAR races they've had on there. And it's definitely lower than WWE SmackDown. But guess what? They're no longer paying WWE for that Friday night slot, which was, I believe the last contract was over $1 billion. So when they own this league, they're not paying contract fees for the UFL or whatever the case may be. This is pure money of whatever advertising comes in and everything like that. They're making money directly off this sponsorships, commercials, airing it on Friday night, getting viewership out there that maybe trickles down to the weekend games. Like someone tunes in like, oh, I see this and my camera just completely shut off because it overheated. But we're still recording here. I'm still talking. I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and we're going to go to this background here. So I'm going to talk this through because I'm not done talking. We'll wrap it up. But essentially, when you get to a point in football and all this type of scenario with leagues and all that type of stuff, that in reality, the league itself could be making money off of brand deals and sponsorships and all this type of stuff, despite the fact how many people they get to go in person, their overhead in money. Obviously, we have not heard anything about an upgraded CBA agreement, so players are still getting paid the same. They've budgeted probably what they were supposed to do this year or whatnot. And we can't forget, if you go on to UFL shop, the UFL shop, and you look at all the Under Armour jerseys, the one I have on tonight with the Arlington Renegades, most of the jerseys for $125 a piece have all sold out of all sizes. Now, I don't know how many they had. I don't know how many they're keeping for live like games in the shops and stuff like that. That's all revenue that they're bringing in. And who knows eventually what that could cost with tariffs and all that type of stuff happening throughout the United States and other countries, and how that could affect like revenue and stuff like that with merchandise. But they are selling out of a lot of stuff on the shop, whether it's the jerseys, some of the limited edition t-shirts, they're selling out of sizes and things like that. So they're making money in all different realms. But we're so focused as fans on the attendance, the TV ratings, and everything like that, that to the point that people are just negatively talking about the league. And I feel like that is kind of where we've got to take a step back as a community, as fans, as media, and let the tide run. We've not heard any rumors that anything is going on behind the scenes financially. Everything's working fine. We're in the third week. We, like I said, we haven't heard anything about a new CBA agreement or anything like that. But overall, the league itself is doing perfectly fine right now. Whether you like it or don't like it, whatever the case may be, they do need to do some things to bring more people in. But I truly wonder, and we'll be talking about this at some other point, but I truly wonder if the league already has the plans to expand in 2026. And this is, as they have called this, is like the do-over, the actual true first season of the UFL based on like the timing and stuff. We all know that the marketing and advertising and all that type of stuff really hasn't changed much. If anything, it's kind of gone down a tiny bit from the actual merger itself into season 2. But I'm wondering if they have kind of put it at their budget where they're at, and this season is just what it is, and they are already ready to bring on 2 more teams, which will bring in more revenue. It doesn't matter. Like, even if you go to Seattle and you have an 8 to 15 to 20,000 crowd, wherever the case it could be, you also have, let's say they go to Columbus, Ohio, and you get tons of people to go pack that stadium out, just like Audi filled with DC, and you create that fan environment there as well. You can essentially, at that point, you're already making more money than you did prior. You have more merchandise you can offer. You have new markets. You have new games. And people are like, oh, they expand. This is just going to make the league worse. I think what they're going to do is they're going to look at this year. They're going to realize that, one, they probably should be on after the week after the Super Bowl, like the XFL was in 2020 and 2023. And I think that's going to be their prime spot. They're going to have to maybe extend the league. I would almost count that maybe we'll get an extra week, maybe not. I don't know what the case is there. But they are definitely, I think they're so far in the mode of expanding at this point that they are looking to take everything that they have, and that's kind of where they're going with it. But we'll talk more about that later. I just wanted to get on here and kind of vent and to say, as a fan, as someone in media, as someone that's ran a YouTube channel for a few years for spring football, that I think we all need to look at ourselves in the mirror and realize that I understand negativity sells very much so. We know this for a fact on the internet, but if we are looking to have spring football around forever or whatever the case may be, then maybe we should all look ourselves in the mirror and asking, are we doing our part truly to help the league get viewership and all that, instead of constantly negatively downing the league and everything about it. Yes, I think play is a little bit off this year, but there is a lot to contribute to that. Less practice. The quarterback camp did not happen. They did not attend that because of the strike that the quarterbacks did. I'm not quite sure if like they had a full quarterback camp in the fall like the XFL did in 2023. I think they even had one for the UFL last year. There's a lot of things that are different this year in the player performance that can maybe contribute to this stuff, but we'll let that see and kind of remain. But we'll be back on Tuesday, or if there's any news over the weekend into Monday, we'll be back Tuesday for the full episode here on the channel, talking about Week 3's TV ratings and attendance. And then we'll see you back here on the flip side. Have a great one, everyone.